Welcome to our latest coffee break for building success, where we have a really cool guest today for a really cool topic that you may not have thought about. This is Scott Garber from Profluence Sports, which is a networking group for industry leaders in the sports industry, as well as athletes, bringing together all of these different organizations that are usually separate. Welcome to the webinar, Scott.
Awesome, guys. Thank you for having me and excited to be here.
Yeah, it's
Scott,
awesome. It's awesome what you guys are doing.
Thank
yeah,
you.
it,
Thank you.
it's absolutely incredible. Building Success has had the opportunity to attend and sponsor some of your events, and it embodies what Building Success is looking to do, which is create better business opportunities in the community. But we're going to talk to you specifically about sports. And Scott, we were having a conversation before this webinar where you were telling me that athletes often find that they don't have a mechanism to connect with businesses. They kind of feel like they're their own little entity. Maybe there's a little bit of disorganization, but they're looking for that community feel. Talk to us a little bit more about how Profluence wants to get athletes better tied into the business community, because they're not really two different communities. They really are one community, but they just act like they're separate.
No, for sure, guys. And what you guys are building is truly incredible, and it's very parallel to what we're seeing in the sporting industry as the ecosystem and the asset class continues to evolve. Players, which once were predominantly known for being on the court or field or rink, now are really showing up with intention in the boardroom. And so we've watched this bridge now start to form where we're able to leverage the name, image, and likeness of these athletes while they're playing their sport, and transition that into much broader opportunities that transcend far beyond the game that they're playing. And so, at Profluence, we saw a massive opportunity as more innovation and capital were flowing into sports, to create a centralized ecosystem for founders, investors, advisors, and executives across the whole sporting landscape. So to provide opportunities not only to athletes, but to folks that are building in sports, to create a more cohesive ecosystem, both for the participants that are playing, but more importantly, and just as important, the folks that are building businesses to make sure that they're thriving and prosperous as well.
And you've got this great networking type approach where it's more casual. It's not like, oh, starstruck. Oh my gosh, I got to meet Shaquem Griffin, right?
Yeah.
It's all about you're bringing in people that are building arenas, people that are family offices looking to invest, people that have inventions that can change the athletic world in general, as well as all of those people that serve the athletes. So the events that we have been to and worked on with you guys have just been phenomenal because they've been very unique and had a great approach.
Yeah, and I mean, just for a little origin story, Profluence was built out of a necessity. My business partner Andrew Petcash and I were working on a project, and we realized how fragmented the space was. And as we move through sports, there's tremendous one-time events throughout the year. There's other groups that focus on a specific area of sports. But Andrew and I were doing a lot of research, and we said, like, if we're experiencing this pain point, chances are other builders are as well. And so,
Mhm.
I think one of the things that we'll continue to build on is, Profluence has been a brand that, was built from media, over the last few years, and it's naturally evolved into a venture fund, which then led to this more communal approach, and now is just serving as a member platform to democratize access and really bring those builders and those capital providers into one central spot, and then giving everybody else that wants to participate a vehicle, or shall we say a toll road right into the epicenter of what's happening in sports. And so so much of this though is about capturing attention. We're in the economy of attention, and there's a lot of information out there. And as we continue to evolve with great tools like generative AI, we need to be able to validate, right? So now capture attention is one side of it, and then how do I go ahead and reinforce this and take this information and make it applicable? And that's really the goal of Profluence, is to really hone in on those principles and do that in the sporting market.
We don't see athletes show up to typical networking events. I'm a contractor by trade, and most of the events I go to, I don't see tradespeople. And I really stood out in my company and increase my brand presence by being in the space that other contractors don't occupy. You're creating a space because athletes don't get out to these events. They're too, maybe they're too nervous of being overwhelmed, or they think everybody's just going to want them for a perception of wealth. But you're creating that space where it's like, hey, nobody's going to fangirl over you here. They're going to shake your hand like a business individual. Where I'm going with this is you decided to do an event approach instead of having these colossal things, private events, very small. What made you really decide to say, "Hey, we're going to go into the event space, not for a profit margin, but just to actually do a deal lead flow," is essentially what you're working on.
Yeah, so I mean, we took a very intentional approach of building the digital infrastructure first, which is where we watch a lot of folks move right into the either annual event or multi-city event, and we said one of our pain points was if you have a room of 50 people, I might get the chance to talk to 20. What about the 30 folks that I didn't get a chance to connect with? And so the typical behavior was, let's go to LinkedIn, or, here's my cell phone, let's try and catch up. And so, at Profluence, we thought, it would be so advantageous to build the digital infrastructure where we scaled this to, we have 675 members, within the digital community. And so now we've created a place for connection to manifest and to nurture, and now we're starting to roll into these in-person events. And so our whole mantra is, if you don't make it happen in person, well, then there's a safety net to make sure that it happens digitally, and the connection can still flourish. And so that's been very intentional, and we're getting ready to roll out these city events, starting here in Tampa and St. Pete, really putting a spotlight on the sports and innovation side that's happening within our community, and then identifying other pockets where we're watching the same behavior happen at scale. Tommy, real quick, I just want to touch on the athlete side of things. As a former Division I football player, the athletes were always looked at like sort of the rock and jock model, and we've done a really incredible job here at building stardom around athletes. But the reality is they're just people, and they got really good at a specific skill set. And so I think what's been really, really humbling is, as we create these environments of really good people, and that's the foundation, is really good people. I don't care what you're good at, you just have to be a good person. There's actually an aptitude to learn. And so we approach these athletes sometimes with this imbalance, when the reality is they're coming in with open minds and open hearts to try and learn on what's going on and how they can give back, and how to drive business forward that both fills up the wallet, but also fills the human side of what they're doing, which sometimes gets neglected in the business rat race. So just wanted to touch on that as well.
Which is why some of your athletes are coming to the Building Success Summit for our Player Impact Day, where we're working with charities, with kids from the Boys and Girls Club, from Maddie's Movement, and some other charities, to sort of connect back with the community in a good way. And then you've got the education part with your event, March 26th at Stetson Law, where you're bringing in a panel and you're going to have some actual education for them, just like you're doing on a nationwide basis. So talk real quick about the Tampa event, and then just kind of what you guys are going national with.
100%. So as Profluent Sports evolves, our goal is to, make local impact by leveraging a global resource. And so, sports is this, binding agent, very similar to music or food. It brings people together. And it's amazing to talk to it on a scale that's all the way out here. But if we can't distill that back down to your local region, then sometimes we feel disconnected from the mission. And as we continue to leverage our brand, we're attracting a lot of great thought leaders that bring different perspectives to help shape what the local impact will look like. So on March 26th, we partnered with Stetson Law. We're hosting it in the auditorium that Babe Ruth actually signed his first major league contract at, which is a really cool fun fact. And we're bringing in folks at each phase of the journey to start to really break down what's going on in the youth side of sports, at the collegiate side of sports, at the professional side of sports, and then as the athlete, as the through line, what does this journey look like as we're starting to commercialize younger and younger? And so it's going to be a really exciting conversation, not only from all of the growth, but also through a legal lens on how are we making sure that athletes are protecting themselves, so when they make the transition or they're building that business while they're playing, they're putting themselves in positions to succeed, which is a real undercurrent of everything that you guys are doing with the Building Success event. So really excited for the May 26th, and then to parlay that into Raymond James in April.
Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome, Scott.
March
So
26th. March
March
26th. That's
26th,
okay.
March
It's
26th, March
early in the
26th.
morning.
I was like, hold on, something's not
And then,
computing there.
yeah, April 14th
and
to
April
16th for us,
14th
the
through
closest. Yeah.
16th for building success. So
Thank
last
you.
question for you, Scott, because I know we're running low on time here. You know, you have worked with building success already before we've even started working directly with other businesses, before we've gotten this third iteration of our conference. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience so far with building success with our team, and why people want to come to this conference, why it's so important?
Yeah, there's two things that pop out. Genuine people drive genuine results, and so I'm a big believer of people show up in your world for a reason, and where thoughts go, energy flows. And I didn't know Tommy and Shirley, and the way they showed up in our world was very organic. And the way following the event, the behaviors were really rooted in success. Everything from the professional follow up to a framework on how to go ahead and build and develop a partnership, which leads to the second thing, which is the say do ratio. Kudos to my uncle Steve Noodleberg, who was in this space, and that line just stuck with me. But Tommy said he was going to do something. Yeah, he said he was going to do it, and it was done. And Shirley said, "Hey, we're going to sponsor this event," and it was sponsored. And it's compressed time. And I think that's one thing that I really want to focus on is, if you're going to come to this Building Success Summit, this isn't Ozempic. You're not going to take a pill and you're going to get rich overnight. But I will say that if you surround yourself with good people that have a framework of success, you're putting yourself in the best opportunity to compress time and get to where you want to go a little bit quicker. And we've been nothing but thrilled and impressed with what you guys have built so far.
Well, we appreciate it. We are so excited to have you guys at our summit because we feel the same way about you guys. We love what you are doing. We love the personalities and the integrity that you bring to this because it's not always an industry that has a lot of that. And we're seeing just super quality, great people at Profluence. So everybody should join us on April 14th with Scott and a lot of other athletes to talk about how to build your success through business, through community, through sports, through all of these unique industries coming together.
Love it, guys. Well, thank you so much for having me, and we're excited to get out there and go make some impact, and excited to make it happen.
Sounds
That's
good.
wonderful. We'll see you all on April 14th, buildingsuccess.com. Get your tickets, they're running low.